It's all about context.
How do you mean?
Look at this one. He claims that Psalm 58:5 is a contradiction.
What does it say?
It says, like a slug melting away as it moves along.
What? What's the problem?
He claims it's a contradiction because slugs don't actually melt, they just sort of look that way.
Yeah, so? It's a psalm, for pity's sake. It's a song.
Right, that's what I mean. The context is art, not science. Poetry isn't known for its scientific exactitude.
Wow, pathetic.
That's right, that's what I'm telling you. It's all about context.
There is no God. There is no God. There is no God. God. There is no God. There is no God. There is no God.
He says John 10:30 contradicts John 14:28.
Does it?
See for yourself. In John 10:30, Jesus says, I and the Father are one. And in John 14:28, Jesus says, for the Father is greater than I.
Sounds like an open and shut case.
Well, yeah, all these things do until you consider the context. First off, notice that John 14:28 does not say, I and the Father are not one. Now that's a contradiction. This guy's clearly missing the point. Just check out John 14:28. Just a few verses before, Jesus says that the Father is greater than I. In verse 20, he says, I am in my Father.
What's your point?
My point is that the context of the John 14 passage seems to be indicating a spiritual meaning. This guy is taking the quotes out of context on purpose.
Why?
Dunno. Maybe he's lazy.
God. There is no 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 God.
Got another one?
I don't know.
What's the problem?
Well, I mean, most of these are pathetic. Let's look at this one. This is perfect.
What is it?
Mark 1:12 contradicts John 1:35.
What's Mark 1:12?
Mark 1:12 says that right after getting baptized, Jesus went into the desert.
And John 1:35?
Well, he probably meant 1:36 because 1:35 says nothing. 1:36 says that John saw Jesus walking by on the next day.
So what's the context?
Context. That's the funny part. The guy who wrote this list couldn't tell that John was speaking of Jesus' baptism in the past tense, and Mark was speaking of it in the current tense. In the book of John, some guys were talking to John the Baptist about Jesus' baptism, and then all of a sudden Jesus walks by. The guy who wrote this list seems to have a problem telling the difference between past tense and present tense.
Okay, I got it.
Too bad Jim Merrit didn't.
There is no God. There is no God.